Hey there, sports history fan. Arnie Chapman here from the Sports History Network. Now, before you jump into this episode, I wanted to share with you an exciting giveaway we have going on with Home Field Apparel. We have a digital $50 gift card to homefieldapparel.com for one lucky fan of the Sports History Network. All you got to do is head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways to sign up. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways.
Welcome to One Guy with a Mic, Dingers and Dunks, the MLB season preview. Today, this episode, we are talking about the AL Central and how bad of a division it just might be, which is kind of weird that we just had that about the NL Central. So, I do have a guest today. My man Brian is on here today. He's a Royals fan. He will be joining us and talking to us about the AL Central with us. He knows a little bit about it as a Royals fan. I know a little bit about it just because, I live in like the region of three teams of it. So, but before we get started, as always, the show is affiliated with shankitgolf.com. Go ahead and go buy your golf apparel for the season, bags, everything else. Use code ONEGUY when you go to checkout. Also, make sure to drop that follow button, hit that bell for any notifications, and follow us on Twitch at One Guy with a Mic. Follow us on Twitter, One Guy with a Mic, and follow us on TikTok with One Guy with a Mic. You also find us on YouTube, One Guy with a Mic as well, all one word. So now I got all my stuff out of the way. Let's go ahead and bring Brian in here, and let's have a little fun today, man. How's that sound? How you doing today?
Good morning, Chad. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic.
I just want to say I am privileged and honored to be talking about the powerhouse division of the AL Central.
Yes. Oh, I think it's been the weakest division for the longest time.
It has for a little bit. Going through some of the stuff, it's interesting, kind of seeing how some of the teams have at least tried to improve, probably in the last 12 months or so. So it'll be fun to talk about.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, because before it used to be the Twins would just run it for a while. The Cleveland ran it for a little while. Like it's just one of those divisions where the Tigers ran it for a little while. It seems like everybody has ran the division at some point
Yep.
in the last 20 years,
Yep.
which is nice.
Rotate about every 2 years or so. The Royals had their little piece in 14, 15, and that's been it in my
Right.
lifetime.
Exactly. You get all that popped up.
Yep.
So all right, we're going to start with the Chicago White Sox because, as always, this stuff is brought to you by baseballprospectus.com, and we value their wins and loss. We value their rosters and their in-depth take on some of their stuff, but their wins and losses can be screwed up. So, the White Sox, who obviously just traded away Dylan Cease, is now going to have Eric Fetty as their starter, as their ace, I'm guessing. Oh, man.
Sure, we've got Garrett Crochet as the opening day starter.
Garrett Crochet. Oh man, he wasn't even baseball prospectus. He was going to be the starter / setup guy for him.
This is what happens when we procrastinate this for 3 weeks. I've got to go back and update everything because Cease was on my list and now he's not on the list.
Yeah, I have
No,
no.
on Twitter the other day it popped up. It's this, so it's his first major league start
Oh
because he's been in the bullpen the whole time.
yeah.
Um, and apparently opening day starter. He's the ninth one out of the last 110 years, like to make the first major league start on opening day.
Oh jeez.
Now, granted, I think like Fernando as a rookie or whatever might have been one of the other ones, and like there's
Yeah.
two big name guys, but there's guys you haven't heard of. So
Right.
who knows? He's a fun guy because he throws 100 miles an hour, but
He's going to
we'll see
get
if
you
he
about
lasts.
4 innings with at 100
I
miles
think
an
so.
hour.
I think so. So that was an interesting selection, just to make somebody jump right on the bump on opening day and try and stretch them out a little bit. But we'll see what they do.
Yeah. No kidding. Well, that hey, you know what? Thanks for bringing along that knowledge there because I figured they'd go with Fetty, but I haven't really looked at the opening starters at all. You'd think I'd be a little more prepared sometimes.
No, like I said, we've I looked at some stuff a few weeks ago and tried to make sure I procrastinate, and sometimes it pays off because when I procrastinate, I get the most recent information.
Oh yeah.
But no,
Uh
he's going, so we'll see who else they have because
oh
I'm not
man.
sure if they have anybody else.
I mean you got Eric Fetty who was on the Nationals. I think Kopech he can actually do some damage as a starter. You got Toussaint as another starter, and then you got Mike Soraka. I don't know how you pronounce that name. But
But
then you got Jared Schuster, Chris Flexen, Crochet, as we just talked about. So I mean, they got a little bit of depth. No guys that are really gonna blow you away. Um, and then
I think
they're pulling out John Barbia as their closer. I mean, to me, this pitching staff doesn't scream we're gonna do something.
no, and here's another update. Kopech's going to the bullpen. Nick Nastrini, a rookie, might be in the fifth spot, but I thought Kopech had the stuff, but apparently they're going to throw him in the bullpen for a bit and see what happens.
Oh
So
man,
I just it's going to be kind of a theme today, Cleveland notwithstanding, of the pitching staff. The great Dayton Moore one time said pitching is currency of baseball, and I'm not entirely sure what these guys got going. Again, there's some names that you recognize because they were on, Soroka
right?
and Fetty, and maybe they were supposed to be up and coming guys, but I don't know. I don't know how many innings they can pull off. So
Yeah, that's gonna be the thing. Is this like I said, this White Sox pitching staff does not scream out to me that they're gonna be th- real deep. Like they have plenty of pitchers to throw out there, but I just don't think they're gonna go deep into games. There's not one guy on that in uh that I see in that rotation that is gonna go past 6 innings a start.
no, no. Like I just my bullet points seriously say this: Crochet opening day, Cease traded to Padres, Kopech moved to bullpen. Next bullet point: who else? Three
Yeah,
question mark. Like who else? And so I don't
right.
know.
Yeah.
So if they figure out something there, they could be okay. Because I'm from a lineup standpoint, it's some guys that are somewhat fun to watch at least, and whatever. But from a pitching staff standpoint, I don't know what they can provide.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing is like you look at their lineup behind the plate. You got Stassi and Maldonado, guys that both guys that make good contact every now and then. Um, they're not gonna light anything up. But then you got Andrew Vaughn, you got Nicky Lopez, you
Royal
got
great.
Moncada, yeah, Royal Great, exactly right. And then you got Paul DeYoung. Uh, they're at shortstop now instead of uh, I get my lights knocked out.
Tim Anderson. Yep, there you go.
Tim Anderson. Yeah, exactly. Um, I mean, but they can bring up Colson Montgomery if they wanted to. They got Andrew Benintendi out there in left, Luis Robert in center. They got some guys they can plug into right field. Dominic Fletcher might be the guy that starts it, but then they got Colas, Deloach. You can throw out Cespedes out there. Jimenez can play out there. Gavin Sheets can play out there. So their lineup doesn't look bad.
Right, and with Maldonado, I think they're hoping again with the pitching staff problems. Mr. Astro's pitching whisperer,
Yeah,
Quentin Maldonado. Maybe he can do something with them, but he's not going to provide much from a bat standpoint.
right. Yeah, he's gonna definitely hopefully bring that pitching staff along is what I guess they're probably hoping for. Because if
Well,
they go ahead,
I was just with Vaughn though. I mean, because there's some pop. I mean, you've got the guys that you know of with Robert and
mm-hmm.
Jimenez when he's actually healthy. But Vaughn last year having his first full year and getting to 21 home runs. He's a stocky fellow, and you feel like if you can get out of a first baseman spot, 25 home runs, 100 RBIs, like that's the type of guy they need him to be, and he's that close. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
21 home runs and 80 RBIs. That's not bad for a first full year. Somehow he was already in his fourth MLB season, which As I told you prior to the show, some of my most recent knowledge of these players are MLB The Show cards, and I remember his prospect card or whatever the heck they called it that time. I was like, oh, this guy's going to be a stud, and I
Yeah.
feel like that was last year. It was not. So we'll see. I mean, but that's a guy at a corner spot that you can get some pop with. And Nicky Lopez, he's going to be there for defense. He's not going to do anything.
Right.
And that's fine. Like you need at some point, you're not going to always have a big stick at the second base spot, but he's a real solid defender. I think when he went to the Braves last year, he really contributed. And as much as I didn't want him to play for the Royals because he couldn't hit in a big ballpark, like he really manned the second and shortstop positions for a while when they were trying to figure out who goes where.
Right. Yeah, and that's one. Yeah, like this lineup does have some pop to it. Like this, if they get into close games, I think they can win the close games. And not by their pitching, but just because if they get the last at bat and it's a close game, I think they can win it just off their lineup.
Yeah, I mean, you got DeYoung. He's had pop before.
Yep.
Moncada, if he's healthy, like that guy had it all. Kind of, I'm curious with him. Tried to find some things. So one, Pedro Grifol, former Royals hitting coach, which all the former Royals on this team, I'm not entirely sure what they're trying to do. That does not seem like a recipe for success. Your GM is Chris Getz, former Royal. Your coach is the former hitting coach for the Royals, and you've got a whole bunch of former Royals on the roster.
Yeah.
Not the greatest recipe for success because it's not 2015. But the manager was quoted as saying, keeping him focused and concentrating on what he needs to do in regards to Moncada. And it's just like, I don't know what his commitment level is, but he's in his final year of his contract.
Right.
And with any sport, football, baseball, I'm assuming the NBA, I don't follow as much as I used to as a kid with Michael Jordan and the Bulls, but I got to imagine he's got a little incentive to perform this year. And he was the guy like that was supposed to be the next best thing for them. And so if he can do something, you got Lewis Robert in center field. That's the type of guy that's just he's fun to watch. He can go chase down a ball in the power alleys, but then he can go launch one 450 from the plate. Reminds me a lot. I mean, the Buxton to Torrey Hunter comparison is easy because of the twins. I feel like Robert reminds me so much of Torrey Hunter because going to Royals games, I saw them play the Twins all the time. And Torrey Hunter was like, I wanted him to play wide receiver for the Chiefs. Like, that's the type of build that he had. And Lewis Roberts, kind of the same type of guy. So, I don't know. They've got fun guys to watch. Benintendi, Red Sox great, Royal great. He's out there, can provide maybe some leadership and some decent at bats. I don't think he's got much pop left, but
yeah,
not bad.
Yeah, he'll definitely eat up some pitcher counts for you. So with that said, Baseball Prospectus has us at 60, has them getting 66 wins and going in 96 losses. I think that's right. To me, that's right on the money. I don't think they're going to win more than 70 games this season. Pitching staff's just not there. Bats are, but pitching staff's a work in progress. How about you?
I've got them at, let's say they had 61 last year. I have them at 64.
Yeah.
So right under, it's just, it's all pitching. And
yeah,
as with a lot of these central teams that apparently play outside in the North, your pitching has to get you through the early season games where it's 35 degrees outside and they got nothing.
Right.
So 64-98, I've got them finishing last again.
Yep, that's where I got them at, as last place as well. All right, next up we got the Kansas City Royals, your team. We're hitting this one a little sooner than than most other guys that's been on here.
Yep.
So with the Royals, they got Cole Reagans, who's a two-time Tommy John guy. Brady Singer, Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo, Jordan Lyles. I mean, they added some pitchers to their pitching staff this offseason. And
hopefully some viable starters is what they need.
Right. Wacha and Lugo are both going to eat up some innings. They've done that in their entire course of both their careers. So that'll be nice. Reagan's continues to do what he did last year, continues that to this year. You got a young stud right there.
Yeah, I mean two Tommy Johns, but a little goofy situation. The second one was to fix the first one because the first one didn't take. So
Right.
who knows what that actually means? Like, is that still a chance for a real second one, like some people have had before? Because I mean, this isn't. I don't know who it was on Sports Talk the other day, but the Kansas City guys brought in one of the national. They talked about him. I mean, you got Snell, you got Montgomery. I don't know what other lefties, but like from a stuff perspective, he's one of the top lefties from a stuff perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, he's throwing over 100 miles an hour consistently and some good breaking pitches, but you just don't know how long he can go for the season. Besides the Tommy Johns, I think he's been fine.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And he had a rough outing, I think, the other day. But at spring training, it's always hit and miss of who's, especially from pitchers, like who's working on stuff. Like I still remember a story about Greinke back when he threw like 95% curveballs or changeups one game
Mm-hmm.
because he had to work on it that day. So spring training, he's kind of whatever. But
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, it's all about the viable starters. If Walker and Lugo can eat innings, that's what they need.
Mm-hmm. And then what do you guys got in the bullpen here?
Apparently, this is not a homer take. This is just facts. But the Royals are winning the World Series because they got Will Smith, and he's won the World Series the last 3 years with 3 different teams. So Will Smith is going to go for the four-peat, and the Royals are going to win the World Series here this year. But apparently, he's a new closer.
I mean,
I don't know what else there is. There's the bullpen, especially with the Royals. The bullpen has been kind of funny. Like you get back when they were legit. You had Herrera, you had Holland, you had Wade Davis, who was supposed to be a starter. You know, guys that were just nobody really knew about. And so it's more the same. I mean, people know about Will Smith just because he's been around for a bit. He's obviously had some success and that goofy little stat of being on the winning team the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Nick Anderson's a recognizable name. They just picked up that John Schreiber guy. I think Red Sox.
Yeah.
They have a Rule 5 guy that'll be interesting with that whole thing. You got to keep him on the team for the whole year. So it's easier with the bullpen. You can toss them down there and hide. They got some guys that are borderline starters, borderline bullpen. Marsh and Zerpa are decent guys that could actually be a fifth spot because Jordan Lyles absolutely sucks and he's batting practice. But who knows? Carlos Hernandez is really good out of the bullpen, but he's on the IL. So if you got him, maybe eighth inning spot with Will Smith, that's great, assuming that they actually have a lead. But I don't know. So we'll see. It's just if Lugo and Waka can eat innings, if Singer can be the guy he's supposed to be, he's not going to be an ace. At this point, they're hopeful he'll be a great number 2. I think he's going to be a solid number 3. They sent off his Florida Gator buddy Jackson Kowar to the Mariners this offseason. When they drafted both of them, the Royals fans, they all thought this is going to be great. We got 2 Florida stud pitchers. Well, Kowar got shipped off to the Mariners, and he's got Tommy John surgery already. So that was a bullet dodged. But
right,
we'll see. You know, when they had their success, they got through 6, and 7, 8, 9. Herrera, Davis, Holland, or whatever combination it was that year. That's what they've got to figure out. That's kind of their way because I mean they play in Kauffman Stadium. They don't have. They've got some pop in the lineup a little bit more than normal, but not guys that are going to hit 50 home runs, especially playing half their games in Kansas City in the cold and the big field. So
yeah, Kauffman Stadium doesn't get its due as a pitcher's park, but it's definitely a pitcher's park.
It is.
So yeah, so speaking of the lineup, we got Sal Perez coming back. You know.
He's there, kind of still iffy on defense. He'll probably play some first and DH a lot. That Freddie for means he actually showed that he's a viable backup. And then they got Austin Nola that some people were talking they might carry 3 catchers, which will be interesting. But
yeah, that and Baseball Prospectus has them carrying 3 catchers as well.
Yeah. Curious who won't make the cut on the other spots.
Yeah, because then you got the Vinny Paz at first. Behind him is Nick Prado. At second, you got Massey. Behind him is Frazier. You got Garcia at third. Obviously, you got Bobby Witt Jr. at short. Guy just signed a massive contract, locked him up for life, pretty much. They got MJ Melendez out and left. Wasn't he the? Was it? Did he come up as a catcher?
Came up as a catcher. When Salvi was healthy, he wasn't getting a lot of time, and he's not great defensively. I kind of felt like he just needed some work. I'm not sure. They shoved him out in right field, so he played a lot of right field.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting experience watching him track a fly ball out there. But now with Renfro on the team, apparently they're moving him to left. So complete opposite of Gold Glove Alex Gordon out in left field. We will see what happens.
Yeah. So then you got you got Renfro out and right, and then center field is, I'm showing it's either Isbell or Drew Waters.
Probably Isbell. Isbell's their best defensive guy
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, it's hard not to be. I think one of us could be their best defensive guy when we have Melendez and Renfro in the corners.
Yeah.
You know, Waters is interesting. You had your Atlanta Braves guys on the other day. I mean, Waters came up as the top prospect for the Braves and just never panned out. So he had some injury stuff last year that hopefully he can show up and be at least 75% of what he was supposed to be about 4 years ago. So we'll see. But I think there's some pop there. Melendez is kind of an all or nothing guy.
Yeah.
Renfro's similar, but if Melendez can kind of figure out some contact, maybe take a few more pitches and take some walks, it's not awful.
Yeah. I don't think their lineup's awful.
Well, I mean, Pascantino, he's coming back from a shoulder thing,
Right.
and so as long as he's healthy, he's fine. I think in the spring he's been fine, but he can hit, and he's got some decent pop. Again, how much pop, especially with 81 games in Kansas City, who knows? But
Mm-hmm.
something to be a threat. You have to have protection for Bobby Witt wherever he's going to go. I think Garcia's leading off, which thank God he kind of got settled in because he was actually going to play short when last year nobody knew if Bobby Witt could play short. And
Yeah.
Witt answered those questions, made some obviously highlight plays within the routine plays, and you know MVP vote getting season. So
Yeah.
Garcia got stuck there at third. Massey's kind of an unknown. Some of our Philly fan buddies, people have thrown out this guy's the next Chase Utley, which is absolute, an exaggeration. But he's that type of a player where he's an okay fielder, but he's kind of a power hitting left-handed guy. So
Yeah.
again, maybe somebody that can pop something in the gap for doubles. I don't know. It's not awful. Like, and I'm sure the non-Royals fans are like, oh, who are these guys? But compared to some of the rosters, I'm not going through. Wait, I don't have any idea who this guy is because I've never heard of him on a prospect list or I've never heard of him on a major league roster. Like
Mm-hmm.
you've at least heard of some of these guys. Um, I am curious your thoughts on Nelson Velasquez, uh, former Cub,
Mm-hmm.
Jose Cuas, the trade last year, and nobody on the Kansas City side knew who this guy was, and he hits 14 home runs in 40 games to end the season with the Royals. So hoping there's some power there, but it seems like he's been found out in spring training. I don't think he's had a very good spring training, but
Um.
I was excited to steal a Cub from you, knowing we were going to hop on and talk about it.
Yeah. So I think with him, it was just one of those things where we couldn't find a spot for him anymore. You
Yeah.
know. And he's a good guy. I think he's going to, if he's having trouble in spring, he does make adjustments, and I think coming over, that's one thing that I saw out of the guy was that he would make adjustments. And again, yeah, we just didn't. When you got guys like Hoyner, I mean, we don't have a spot for Madrigal, for crying out loud, and he's
Right.
probably one of the, and he was looking to be like the best second baseman in baseball at that time. Him and Horner are going to be the duo up the middle, and we don't have a spot for him anymore because for some reason, somehow, the Cubs got stacked with prospects again. So I'm happy to have success. And last year when he had the 14 home runs in the 40 games, I was just like, why do we didn't get much for him when we really
Well,
should have.
one of those bullpen guys I talked about that the Royals have just, Kwas wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Um, and the whole pitching is currency thing, whether you're putting them on your team or using them to improve elsewhere. Like that could turn out to be a real big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know, because that's the thing. He'll be DH, and when
Hmm.
Salvi needs a break, Salvi will DH and do all that fun stuff. But who knows? They've had these young guys. They're not that young anymore. But the good thing is you don't have the Jackie Bradley Jr., the Franmil Reyes, the Brad Kelly
Right.
types that like these guys are. We don't want those hole fillers. You want some guys that have a chance. Those guys were on the tail end of things and thought maybe some veteran presence, but that didn't really work out. So
Yeah. And realistically, Hunter Renfroe is one of those guys that older guy, but he's also always been a team guy as well.
right,
So he kind of fits that mold of, hey, we got a bunch of young guys. Same with Adam Frazier. So you added
super
guys.
utility.
What's that?
Super utility with Frazier. Yeah,
Right. So you added guys. That's what I see is like the vets that you guys added were guys that weren't going to come in and rock the boat.
yep.
They're going to come in, do what they needed to do, help the young guys out.
Yeah, it has
So
a few young outfielders too, like you said with Renfro. Whether he moves to DH for a game or whatever, you can put another young outfielder out there
hmm
still. But having Hunter Renfro, I'm excited. The Chiefs are rumored to be interested in the Raiders Hunter Renfro, and so if they do that, then they have cornered the market on all the Hunter Renfros in the sports world.
exactly. Man, if Hunter
Fun
Renfroe
fact.
goes to the Chiefs, jeez.
Yeah, that's another podcast, Chad.
I could see that though. That's another podcast. I know, got Cubs, Royals, Raiders, Chiefs in here.
We're good.
We're good. All right. So where do you think the Royals win-loss record it finishes? Baseball Prospectus has them going 71 and 91. What about your thoughts?
I don't know if I fix it. So I went through. I had them. I feel like I wishful thinking was like I'm going to put them like third, and then I went back and I think sorted the math on stuff. So I'll look at it later when we get to the other teams. But from a record perspective, I went all the way to 76 and 86, which is terrifying because that's
Hmm.
a 20 win. That's a 20 win jump. Um, they were tied for their second. They were tied for the worst record in franchise history last year.
Yeah.
So 56 to 76 is an enormous leap, but Reagan's, Lugo, and Waka, that might be enough of a difference for 20 wins because it was dog doo doo pitching last year.
Right.
And I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but honestly, the starting lineup hasn't changed that much. And we've talked about some of the additions, but when you go like position by position, those guys ended that the year last year.
Hmm.
So it's all pitching. So we'll see.
Yeah, I look at this Royals team kind of like I did the 2014 Cubs team.
Mm-hmm.
2014 Cubs team was vastly hindered by pitching, and that was when Carlos Marmol couldn't get a save for 14 games. That's when um, I can't remember I think it was Edwin Jackson was our best pitcher, and he was like 0 and 14 or he had a ridiculous season but couldn't get a win because the bullpen couldn't hold it. And and I looked at him like, if the Cubs just had a guy that saved instead of blowing his first 10 saves of the season like Marmol did. I think it was Marmol. I'm pretty sure it was. Um then and they get 5 of those saves, and then they also get I'm pretty sure it was Jackson that was the guy that, and they just get the 5 wins. I said that's 10 wins right there. So that puts them right in contention for the NL Central that year. And that's what
Well,
and it's
right.
same thing with the Royals. Is like if they just had guys, if they just had pitching that could get them over the hump, that's an extra
Yeah,
10
I mean,
wins.
it's baseball. Like a 5 win difference really shouldn't be that hard. And so the hard work is the rest of it. And it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of talk about the Central. As bad as they are, they might be the Central overall might be the most improved teams in the league.
Yeah.
It's not saying anybody's good because
Right.
again, when you go from 56 to 76, that's not a good team,
Yeah.
but that's the most improved.
Right. Exactly.
So
Um
right direction.
Yeah, I can see the Royals winning at least 80. I can see them winning right around 500, especially with the additions they've had the pitching staff. plus you get a full years of Cole Reagans. And that, I mean, kid's what, 26, 27 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like,
And I mean, in the end, you got Bobby Witt Jr. And I mean, he was
right.
seventh. He was seventh in the MVP voting. And
Yeah.
if he just keeps going, then you've got a superstar on your team. So fill the gaps around it and figure it out. And that's good for another handful of wins.
Yeah. So that's why I say I see them finishing right around 500. Is that going to put them, which then I think puts them, uh, probably right in that hunt of winning the division. So, but we can, so let's move on to the Detroit Tigers. All right. The Tigers are the Tigers. I mean, Baseball Prospectus has them going 75 and 87. All right. Um, they they got Scooble. Hopefully he's back and healthy. They got Jack Flaherty, who hasn't done anything really. They got Olson, Maeda. They got Matt Manning, Casey Mize. I mean, they don't really. Their pitching staff doesn't say, "Hey, we're here to win a division." It says, "Hey, we're here to eat up salary and try to get some wins."
Yeah, it's I still like it a lot more than the White Sox starting staff. I just
Yeah.
Flaherty, you just hope that he shows what he showed a little bit with the Cardinals. Maeda obviously was a strong contributor for the division rival Twins.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's kind of more the same with a lot of these teams when it comes to pitching. It's some of these young guys that were supposed to be these studs. Manning and Mize. Mize for sure. It's like that guy
Yeah.
was the real deal coming
Right.
up,
He
and
was.
he's kind of been written off. And so is this that comeback season? Not even comeback season. Is that the prove it wrong season for him? After that, I don't know. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know who. 5 is Scoop. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
Your Cy Young type of pitcher leading the way with Tariq, um, which he probably would have been in the Cy Young race if he stayed healthy. So I don't think they're awful. I think you're right. Nothing's screaming at you, but um, I feel like from a can we get something out of these guys? Probably. The young guys are the question marks.
Yeah.
All the talk the last few weeks has been that Jackson Joe prospect throwing 100,000 miles an hour. So who knows if he comes up later? He's not gonna contribute early. But I
No.
don't know. It didn't completely turn me off. I mean, as a Royals fan of the last couple of years, I would take this starting rotation over the last few of Royals rotation of the last few Tigers rotations.
Yeah.
I think the top, you got 2, 3 with Flaherty and Maeda, and that's not bad if Screwball can stay healthy.
Right. Yeah, it's not a bad 2-3. But Flaherty really hasn't been anything special since the Cardinals.
No, I think he's
That
right.
scares me.
It does, but I mean, you think about what he's with the Cardinals. So he's the veteran guy now,
Yeah.
and when he was with the Cardinals, he learned from Wainwright, Carpenter, Waka,
Yep.
now Royal, Waka. Um, maybe he can be that guy for these young guys. Maybe he's not the stat guy. Maybe he's that leader in the I'll say bullpen, but you know what I mean. Where
Yeah, leader in the staff, like the guy
yeah,
that's going to teach these young kids how to be a major league player, be a major league pitcher,
that's
and
probably what they need. I
not
mean,
just
that's what
thrower.
with Mize. I don't know why he fell off, but maybe he needs that guy.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's the like I th- I feel like a lot of people put pressure on the pitching coach to make sure all the pitchers doing things right, but then I really think it's what's in your pitching room. We'll just call it a
Mhm.
pitching like
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yep,
NFL's got QB rooms, we got pitching rooms,
yep.
it's all right. So yeah, it's just who you got in there that's going to help bring the guys along cuz the pitching coach can only do so much.
He can, and these guys they all have their own on the side off-season pitching
Right.
coaches. They go to Driveline, they do all that other stuff. Like who knows what the pitching coach actually contributes, but you're right. I think that they've got a good group of guys. They got some good veterans that maybe can lead a couple of these young guys and figure it out. Because once again, pitching in a pitcher's ballpark. Because sorry Tigers, I hate that stadium. Like it's 550 feet to the frickin' power alleys.
Yeah.
Nobody getting a ball out in left center or right center. So if I'm a pitcher, I'm loving that place.
Right. Yeah, that's for sure. And yeah, then you look at so that brings us to the lineup. You got Jake Rogers and Carson Kelly behind the plate, Torkelson over at first, throw out Colt Keith at second, Andy Baez right behind him. They got Gio Urshela over at third. They also got Javi Baez playing short, Mark Canahan, Kanai, how you pronounce his last name, former Met, out there in left, along with Badu. You got Parker Meadows in center, Riley Green over in right, and then you can throw whoever you want at DH. I mean, they got Kerry Carpenter at DH on baseball perspectives, but I think Kelly's going to get a lot of play um, at DH as well. I think Kelly's bat was pretty good with the Diamondbacks when he was there. So it's like you don't want to really take him out of the lineup. Jake Rogers is a really good behind the plate guy. So I mean they got spots here, and that's the problem is like you got Torkelson who just hammers the ball, or Urshela can hammer the ball. Baez has been known to hammer the ball, and to me, Baez's fall off from his MVP wannabe season is due to the change in the change of rules about tablets in the dugout, because he was such a huge guy of making adjustments in game. Hold on, I gotta let my dog cover for me.
Yeah, no, I think Baez he's strong defensively, so it'd be nice if his bat actually showed up. I think that's where if they get this guy to turn it back around like they had, it's a somewhat of a scary young lineup. You got Torkelson, who's a slugger from Arizona State. Again, not necessarily in the best hitter's ballpark, but Torkelson can maybe bomb a few. And if he turns into that, just like we talked about with Andrew Vaughn with the White Sox, a 25 home run, 100 RBI guy at first base, that's huge. And so to pair that with a somewhat of a decent, Javi Baez, I don't know. I look at this lineup and it's kind of a fun little lineup to potentially watch with the young guys. I don't know much about Colt Keith, the prospect, but they freaking signed him to an extension before he's played a game in the big league. So they're either incredibly wrong or there's something there.
Right.
And I can't blame it on their front office because my understanding there was a change last year, and so that's why some of these young guys are kind of getting the shot versus when they signed Baez, they signed, um, gosh, that pitcher that opted out.
Oh yeah,
Rodriguez, Eduardo
yep.
Rodriguez.
There you go, Rodriguez.
So,
yes.
yeah, those two big contracts a couple of years ago. Well, those blew up in their face, so the GM's gone. But again, you've got some young guys. I think Riley Green obviously has shown some flashes already as another young guy out in the outfield, and Parker Meadows is a guy that can fly around the base pass. So right there, you've got some pretty decent cornerstone spots, hopefully covered for a long time. Not sure how much longer Baez is going to last, but it's sneaky scary.
Yeah, they are. They are sneaky scary. And I think here's always my view about the Detroit Tigers, especially after they went to the World Series with Verlander and Scherzer, right? They haven't really tried to win with prospects like they did back then. Now they try to bring every time as a free agent, they sign someone big, bring him in. And I think with the new GM saying, "Hey, you know what, man? We're just gonna live with the growing pains. We're just gonna have to suck for a while and live with the growing pains." And granted, we have Baez on contract. But Baez is also a huge team guy. Like,
Well,
and
he
I
can
think
still play defense too. So I
right,
mean, it's not a
he's
total loss.
still a great defender at shortstop. Like, and that's the thing is like his offense. Everybody complains about his offense, and I'm just like, but his defense is really great. It's to me, it's like Jason Hayward. Like when the Cubs signed him to that huge deal, and then he comes out and craps out. I said, well, he's only had 3 really good offensive years in his entire career. You sign the guy because the guy can throw a rope from the right field wall to third base,
Yeah,
and he's a
no,
leader.
he can be something special.
Yeah,
From different factors on the team. So
correct.
I don't know. It's just I think you're onto it. I think the new guy is trying to do more of the same. Hey, we've got some young guys. Let's give them a chance and see. And so I think that's why. I mean, it could blow up in their face, but it's also you've seen flashes. I mean, Torx hit some bombs.
Yeah.
Riley Green's shown some flashes. It's and if Baez can't hit, well, guess what? Your second baseman that you signed before he's even played a game, he's
Hmm.
supposed to be that hitter. So there might be that guy to take that spot. Who knows?
Yeah. And Baez has always been a slow starter.
Yeah.
So like even last year he got hot towards the end of the year. It always for some reason April through June he's just not Javi Baez at the plate, and then all of a
Right.
sudden something locks in right around July, and dude just goes on fire because like he was batting below 200 for the first 2 months of the season. And I still think he ended up with like a 240 average, which again, and I look at batting averages kind of like you're only asked to if you get hits 3 out of every 10 times, that's a 300 average, right? So like
The math
the,
checks out. Yep.
yeah, so the guy got a hit one every 5 at bats. Like it's not the end of
Not
the
far
world.
off, right?
Yeah, it's not that end of the world. Like it's a CNI single it's one more bloop. It's one more, getting through the hole as Bull Durham would say. Like so yeah. All right. So Prospectus has him going 75 and 87. Um, I think they could. I think they're going to be right around 72. Is what I think. I think they can win some games, but I really think they're at 72.
I went the other way with the hopeful young guys.
Hmm.
I said went the other way. It was kind of a cop out. Same record as last year, 78 and 84.
That's fair.
For me, that puts them at third. That
Yeah.
was the battle. That was the adjustment of between Tigers and Royals in third. Again, how close those two spots are to the top two teams will be interesting. Just depends on how these young guys pan out.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And they could have young guys that come out and just blow us away.
Yeah. And
So
this is all. I mean, we haven't talked in any of the first few teams we've talked. Like, if some of these teams are in contention, who knows who makes a deal?
right.
That missing piece. And we've talked about missing pieces for all of them. It could solve a problem by making a trade later down the road. So
Yeah.
who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. They all have the prospects to make a big deal. You know, team that's not doing what they're supposed to be doing and want to get rid of some salary and cut bait with some of their older vets because they thought they would bring them in and do something, something that the Padres probably should have done a few times. But
Yep, they should have.
so, all right, next up is Cleveland. Baseball Prospectus has them going 83 and 79. Um, they got a starting five of Bieber, McKenzie, Bibby, Gavin Williams, and Logan Allen. I think Joey Cantillo, their prospect, is a hot commodity, though. I think he could actually be called up if he doesn't make the big league team coming out of the spring. And then of course they got Class A in the saver role, in the closer role.
He's just filthy. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, their starters. I feel like this was copy pasted on a number of these teams that feel like could be contending in the Central of a couple older-ish guys and then some young arms that
hmm,
are supposed to be the real deal. Bibby was a rookie of the year runner-up last year.
yeah,
Gavin Williams was solid. I guess he's been out for a bit. He's fixed his windup
hmm,
supposedly, but I mean he was 3.29 ERA and 82 innings pitched as a rookie last year. So those are a couple young guys right there. And Tristan McKenzie, I think he weighs 110 pounds.
yeah,
Throws 100 miles an hour.
yeah,
But he was elite 2 years ago. I mean, he had 190 Ks and 191 innings in 22,
uh-huh,
and kind of fell off a little bit last year because of shocking with the pitcher, some injuries.
yeah,
So if he's back healthy, you got Bieber, who I mentioned Driveline earlier. I saw that's what he did in the offseason, went to Driveline to try and get right, because I think there's been a lot of talk of why haven't the Guardians traded him away for more
yeah,
prospects. I think they're going all in. They know he's worked hard in the offseason to
Mm-hmm.
try and fix whatever was wrong. I mean, he was a Cy Young winner in 2020.
Yeah.
He's obviously guys get old, but he's still got something there. So go all in with him. You got 2, 3 young guys to fill in the gaps. They've kind of relied on pitching, and so I think they know what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're probably the top staff in the Central.
Yes, I would agree with that. I would agree they definitely are the top staff in the Central.
And what
Um,
you need guys to get to Class A.
yeah, basically. Um, yeah. I mean they got Karinchak, they got Barlow, they got Morgan, they got guys in the bullpen that can get there.
Yep.
You know, so
Yeah.
as long as your starters can get you your 5-6 innings, which I think, um, this is actually the first pitching staff that I've seen where Baseball Prospectus has like all 5 of their starters averaging more than 5 innings a game.
That's it. I mean, that's what they need. I mean, I have it written down, but I forgot Barlow, another world great
Yep.
on another Central team.
Yeah.
Renchek, I guess, is maybe not ready for opening day, but not too far down the road. They've got the guy. They got that 7, 8, 6, 7, 8 inning if you need it. Just
Mm-hmm.
get the 5 innings for the starters, and I don't know.
Yeah,
They
you get
just,
to Class in the ninth is pretty much lights out.
but I don't know if they're going to score.
Well, that's where we go. That's where we go to their lineup, and you got Bo Naylor, and Austin Hedges behind the plate. Um, Not really a whole lot going on there offensively. Um, then at first base, you're looking at Kyle Manzardo. At second, you got Andres Jimenez. Third base, Jose Ramirez. Shortstop, Brian Rochio, Gabriel Arias, Tyler Freeman is who they got all playing shortstop here. Left field, you got Steve Kwan, Miles Straw out in center, and they're gonna go Ramon Loreno out there in right, and then you got Josh Naylor as your DH, who also could be your first baseman. So
I
they
don't
got
know
a
where
lot of guys with average. I don't see a lot of guys with home run potential.
you got Big Brother Josh Naylor and Jose Ramirez. That's it.
Right.
I don't know who else is producing any runs. Um, I mean,
Quan and Straw are going to get on base.
yeah, I mean that's the thing. You got and Jimenez might do more of the same if he can bounce back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I mean that's the thing. They were record wise they're picked to be decent. Last year they were third in the division. I mean their pitching staff has to carry them, but this is a team that needs to make a deal for a big bat, or Manzardo, their slugging prospect, shows up and actually does something.
Right.
Because I don't know where they're getting it. Like I said, Bo Naylor, solid catcher. I don't think he's got pop like Big Brother Josh. Actually saw Josh play quite a bit. He was with San Antonio Missions for a couple season and a half or so in 17 or 18. So solid, but it'll be interesting to see. I think one of the big stories with them, obviously their new manager with Francona out, hiring Stephen Voigt.
Mm-hmm.
No managerial experience, but former catcher.
Right.
Catchers are the smartest guys on the field. Just ask me. It'll be interesting to see how he manages the team. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a small ball strategy with this group, because we've talked about the pitchers parks in the Central. Cleveland, I don't think's as bad. I think you can get away with some big bats if you had them, but I just don't think they have them.
No, they yeah, I mean, yeah, the Cleveland's park is kind of a neutral park. Um and yeah, they just don't have guys that are going to hit 40. I mean, they got Ramirez, okay? High average hits for power sometimes. Hits for power. And Loreno can hit for some power. Naylor hits for power. I mean, so their problem is we'll get on base, but once we get past 3 and 4, Naylor and Ramirez, I don't know how we're going to score more runs. So I see this team struggling to score at least 4 runs a game.
Yeah, I'm just curious with the Beaver stuff if they have more young guys, or even not even young guys. I mean, Carrasco is back with the team, and he's going to be a fifth spot potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Could they afford to deal Bieber for that bat? Like, is the rest of the pitching staff strong enough that middle of the year, hey, let's trade this big piece so we can get another big piece back because we gotta score some runs. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be the move or not.
If they make that move to try to get another big bat in the lineup, I see them going after Pete Alonso.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Naylor would DH or
Yep.
Alonso would DH, whatever. But
yeah, I see. I look at this lineup and say, if I throw Pete Alonso in this lineup,
helpful.
This lineup gets dangerous really quick.
Yeah, it does.
Because that's what they're missing. They're missing.
Point. I like that one.
Yeah,
I don't like that one as a Royals fan, but I like that one as a baseball move.
Right, as a baseball move, throwing Pete Alonso in this lineup would be huge. Because that's what they need. They need one. They just need that one guy that's going to hit a tank when needed.
Yeah, because you can split up Naylor and Ramirez and Alonso in the lineup, and these other guys like we're talking. There's good hitters on the team.
Yeah, they're good hitters on the team. Juan and Straw, two of the best hitters in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, and Jimenez, if he just gets on base. Yeah, you throw Pete Alonso in there, and this lineup it's over. And now I don't think you'd have to give up Bieber to get Pete Alonso.
No, and that's where I don't know what they've got in the farm system. So
right.
Who knows?
I think you could get up Joey Cantillo is their hot ace prospect. So I feel like you could give him up, and probably I think they have a few other prospects down there that are really good. So as I think if you give up him and say your 25th and 30th best prospects, you might be able to get Alonso. I mean, because I heard with the Cubs, because the Cubs were talking to the Mets about trading for Alonso, and the Mets, part of their deal is they want PCA back. They want Pete Crow Armstrong back with them. And the Cubs are refusing to part with him, even though we're not going to start him out in center field right now anyways, because we're putting Bellinger out in center, but still. But yeah, I think the Guardians could go after Alonso if it's a really tight race with the Twins or with anybody in this division, because it's gonna be tight. I feel like all the way around, and they want to make a run in the play. So say all right, we have the division in sights. We look at everybody else, so we can make a run with the team we got. But we need one big bat. You go after Pete Alonso. And then this lineup goes from barely scoring 4 runs a game to then with the potential of 6-7 runs a game.
Yeah, I can see it.
And now you're looking at pitching staff, like you get this pitching staff a 3-run lead after the first 3 innings or after the first 2 innings.
You're shutting the door pretty early.
Yeah, you are. I mean, like it's over. Like you give them a 3. That's why I think that's one thing I think is if with this pitching staff, you get them out to if you are able to give them a 3-run lead in that first couple innings, and then let your starters just sail, just cruise until that sixth inning, and then bring in your 7-8 guy, and then you get to Class A. It's lights out. Like, so yeah. So yeah. Baseball Prospectus have them going 83 wins. I have them going. I actually could see them getting 86 out of this deal, 87 wins. If they add one piece, they're definitely a 91 team.
Yeah, after I got done with the numbers of Central, it's just like still none of these records. I have them 9 more wins than last year. Kind of shocking that their record last year was still in the 70s, but 85. I have 85.
Yeah.
So right on your 86, and again, that wasn't even considering. It was considering a new piece, but not the piece that you brought.
Right. Yeah.
I could see it, and again, part of the Central being kind of where they are. Granted, they might be the most improved, they might not be, but they will beat up on each other a little bit.
Yes.
So who
Eh,
knows? Who knows
Right.
who's going to steal some wins from there? But I got them at 85.
Right, and that's the thing is like the only team that you really can count out of this division is probably the White Sox. That's the one team you can say 90% sure this team's not going to make a dent. But
That's
the
a
other,
gut feeling. I still they got those a few pieces in their lineup that scare me, but they're
yeah,
pitching.
but the rest of these teams, it's just like they're going to beat up on each other, and it's going to be whoever wins more games against each other that's going to come out on top. Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like this division's strong against other divisions in baseball. It's like the NL Central. Like they're going to do a lot of damage to each other,
Right.
but they're not going to do a lot of damage outside of the NL Central. So, all right, that brings us to our final team, the Minnesota Twins slash Twinkies. I grew up in the Metrodome. It felt like it anyways. I was up there every summer with my grandpa going to Twins games. Well, we weren't Twins fans. We were Cubs and Yankees fans still. So saw Puckett, saw her back. I mean, I remember I was like, I think it was like my eighth or ninth birthday. Saw Clemens throw a 1-0 shutout against the Twins at the Metrodome. It was great.
Hey,
Um,
so since you brought it up, I want to ask because I have this April baseball in Minnesota. I bet you enjoyed growing up being able to watch baseball inside, right?
yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes.
So when they built the new stadium and it doesn't have a roof,
It's horrible.
I don't I don't understand it. I don't get it with uh,
It's the
when you go
worst.
from a roof to no roof, you're going to spend the money to build a beautiful stadium.
Yeah.
I know it's more money, but they have it. All the owners have it.
Oh yeah.
Throw a roof on it and wait. It's miserable in April and really in part of May. Like
It's here.
whatever.
So I live in Iowa, which is I live at the corner of Nebraska, South Dakota, and Iowa, where they all meet. Okay,
Right.
Minnesota's border is 84 miles away from me. It's a 10-degree drop going from my house to the Minnesota border in
Just
April.
awful.
In April and October, it's a 10-degree drop.
That's
Like you get up to the Twin Cities, which is 4 or 5 well, it used to be the Twin City used to be 6 hours away, and then they upped the speed limits and made everything a 4 lane. So now you can get there in
right.
about 4.5 hours.
Wow.
Um so they're like 4.5 hours away. And between April and October, it's almost it's 15-degree drop from where I'm at. It's just like they're out there. It may be 50 degrees in Sioux City, Iowa, but in Minneapolis, it's 35 degrees and they're playing a ball game. It's like there's a reason why they have to postpone games at the beginning of the year because of snow.
Yeah. And it's
Like,
just it's
because,
frigid and it just
right.
I don't get because even I mean the Royals did the same thing. I mean hell in college the two springs I had neither one of them we got to practice outside before the first game. We were practicing in the basketball gymnasium.
Yeah.
That's in Northeast Kansas, and
Yeah.
so I couldn't imagine playing in Minnesota.
Right. Like, what? I don't know what they were doing when they built Target Field, but, and then
Well,
that's the other thing.
I had to ask, and you brought it up. You brought up the Metrodome, so
Yeah,
it was meant for the end of the
it
Twins
was.
conversation, but you brought it up, and I had to throw it in there. But it all goes back to my point earlier with Detroit.
Yeah.
Do you have the pitching staff to get you through the 1-0, 2-1 ball games? And
No.
uh,
I mean, you're throwing out Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Chris Paddock, and Louis Varland. And Varland's nice. Varland's a nice pitcher. He had some moments last
Lopez
year.
stepped up. He was, they lost Sonny Gray and they lost
Yep.
Maeda to the Twins. Um, Lopez at least had a lot of strikeouts,
Right.
and so maybe for cold weather that'll help. But Joe Ryan will give up home runs, but if he
Yeah.
stops with the home runs, he's kind of right there with Lopez. So
Yeah. I mean,
they're not. You got two, but I'm
that's
not
it.
sure after that.
But then they got Duran as a closer, so I mean, you got to get there, right?
They got to get there, but he's
Got,
hurt, and
yeah.
they don't.
Now you're gonna go with Griffin Jackson Stoutman in that back end. I think the Twins as Twins pitching staff isn't they've never really the Twins as an organization overall fell into two World Series.
Yeah.
in 87 and 91. They fell into two. They had Frank Viola and they had Jack Morris as their studs. Like they fell into World Series. Like
Yeah, I think they're a little bit flipped from Cleveland. Like again, I don't have many names here for pitching, but there's at
yeah,
least two guys you can build off of. I mean, Bailey Over though at 6'9", 260 is just fun, but he doesn't throw hard enough for a guy that's 6'9".
right.
Um,
Like how you gonna be
it
6'9" and
seems
ever
it does seem faster, like because he's already his arm before he lets go is halfway to home plate.
right. But he tops out at what 92, 93 miles an hour. Like
Correct.
and at
So I don't
that
know what's
speed, you got to
there.
be able to hit spots.
Yeah, and I think they're flip flop from Cleveland. I think they at least
Yeah.
have a lineup that can help.
Oh, they got a heck of a lineup.
Yep.
Vasquez, Jeffries behind the plate.
Mhm.
Camargo. They got Santana at first. They got Alex Kurloff. They got Kyle Farmer, Brooks Lee, Royce Lewis, Jose Miranda, like Correa, like yeah. And they got Matt Wallner, Buxton, got Kepler, Castro. Like yeah, their lineup. Ooh, that lineup is fun. Pitching staff,
It's
not
a
so
fun
much.
lineup, and it's I mean this goes for everybody. This is a Captain Obvious statement, but if they can stay healthy, I mean that's obviously Buxton's big problem. So we know what he can do when he's actually healthy.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but I mean Royce Lewis went from first overall pick to
Hmm.
bust to injury wipeout to now he's Mr. Grand Slam, could be back to future of the franchise. Like
Yeah,
uh, it's insane, but he's a stud. He could be a stud.
right.
And Correa, yeah, he's had a down year, but every time he's had a down year, he's had a bounce back year.
Hmm.
So guess what? 2024,
Yep,
Central's on notice.
right.
Santana, I think we all love him in the Central because he's played for everybody, it seems.
It does. It does seem
But
like
I think he's about done. I'm not sure what he can contribute, but we've mentioned veteran presence. You need that guy.
yeah.
He's definitely one of them. He's still
Yep.
a good contact guy, but you kind of want your contact guy to be able to make it to first base before passing out. So I don't know.
Yeah. That's yeah. Again, like
But they've got some good guys. They're a fun team to watch, and it's just again, are you battling snow for the first month and crack bats because everything's
hmm
frozen?
yeah. That and then yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they do have Woods Richardson, who's nice. But I mean, they don't. Yeah, there's no. They're they live by the Twins have always lived by nobody knows us, so we're just gonna sneak in and do something.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't feel like that's gonna be the case this year.
No.
As strong as everybody else is. I think everybody's caught them now. Like,
Right.
and that's where I'm at. Like with this whole with these four teams of the Twins, Guardians, um, Royals, and Tigers is with those four teams. I'm just like they just get hot at the right time. They're gonna overtake the Twins. Baseball Prospectus has the Twins winning the division by a game or by two games. They got them going 85 and 77. Um, I don't think I think that's kind of the right number, but I think they're more of a 500 team. And that's just because they're going to sneak wins out against the A's, the Angels. You know, when you get outside the division and play some of those lesser teams, they're better than those teams. But but in division, when they had to beat up when they're going to beat up everybody each other, um, I don't see them taking first place.
Yeah, I struggled because again with the pitching staff, but I fell back to 88 wins, so a little bit higher,
Yeah.
but still first place, I guess on mine. That
Yep.
puts them 3 games above second place.
Yeah.
Didn't realize from second to third I had a seven game split, um, then two split between Detroit and Kansas City. So kind of two bunch at the top, two bunch in the middle, and then
Right.
below Sox. But I feel like that they're all right there, and they could swing either way, and health and moves and otherwise,
Yeah.
like people could. I don't know. I still go back to the Tigers. The Tigers scare me. The Tigers scare me because they have pitching and they have some young hitting. To whereas I look at the Twins, and it's like, okay, you got that hitting, but what are you going to do on the mound?
Mm-hmm.
Can Lopez contribute more than just strikeouts? I don't know.
So
I mean, honestly, the big thing right now, I don't know. I got lazy at this point. Apparently, I don't know how long Durant is out, and it's an
Yeah,
oblique.
I don't either.
It's an oblique, and if you're throwing 105, I'm not sure how quickly that's going to heal, and
Right.
or just get re-aggravated every other outing.
So you and I look at these pitching staffs and we break it and we look at the players and we're just like, oh yeah, that's like the pitching staff's pretty weak. Baseball Prospectus has the Twins pitching staff at a 15.1 WAR, cumulative 15.1 WAR, and they have the Guardians cumulative WAR at 10.4.
Hmm.
And I feel like the Guardians have a way better pitching staff than the Twins.
Yeah, I think what I was saying. I think Lopez is getting a lot of
Uh,
fluff
yeah.
more than what we're given. I
Mm-hmm.
think Joe Ryan, they're assuming again less home runs and he'll be just fine.
Yeah.
Uh, they've got Chris Paddock, who I believe former Padre, and I think was
Yep.
okay. I'm familiar with Louis Varland, the name. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how good he is, and so I kind of got to that point like 3, 4, 5, at least 4 or
Right.
5 don't stack up.
Correct. Like
So I
that,
don't know.
and that's the thing. Like
It's not the first time I will be wrong if I'm wrong. It's fine.
well,
It's not the
won't be
first
my
time I'll
first
be
time I'm
wrong
wrong
today.
today. That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, I think the Guardian. Me personally, I think the Guardians take the division because I think they do add that one piece, whether it's Pete Alonso or not. I think they add that one piece, gets them over the hump, just because their pitching staff is so good. And then I think the Twins fall back into the medium, right there in the middle of the fall right back to the middle of it with the Royals and Tigers and Twins all stacked up. Which I really think that I think the Twins fall in third place for me. I think the Royals can get second. I really think the Royals can be a really second place team here because maybe they go out and add a piece too when they're that close to the Guardians. Um, but I think the Twins fall more towards the Tigers on this side of the thing, um, right around 500.
Yeah,
So
that's the thing. I mean, I think 1 through 4. I mean, some might argue that one should be set. Clearly, a lot of people think one set with the Twins, but
yeah, I don't see it.
hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's exciting. Hopefully they're not all. This isn't a 70 and 80 win race. Like I would like to see. I've got the Twins at 88. Whether it's the Twins or somebody else getting to 90, 91,
Yeah,
like at least bring some respect to the
right.
Central.
Yeah, bring some
Um,
respect to the Central. It's been down so
Even
many
like I said,
times.
I got the Royals at 76. That's 20 win jump.
Yeah.
81 is a 25 win jump. Like 81, 500, that's a
Hmm.
25 win jump. And I could see them going 500.
Yeah.
But just comparing them to last year, I'm like, well, that doesn't seem that reasonable. But I mean, I guess it could be. It could be that crazy this year.
Yeah. Very much so. Oh, well, hey, I want to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time today and stepping up to the mic and being on here with me. I really appreciate that. Uh, so,
I
uh,
enjoyed it. Appreciate you having me.
yeah, man, anytime. If you, we are, I am getting in the works together for a mid-season report. I think I was talking about this on the AL East podcast about doing maybe getting people together to do a mid-season report to see how we stack up.
Hey,
So
that'd be a fun little review.
yeah, so if you're down for that, we'll get together and we'll set that up and then come.
That and then down the road, we'll see on the NFL podcast for a possible three-peat discussion.
Yes, I've already put my money on the Chiefs to be 3P champs. They're at a plus 650, so
Right.
I said
Yeah.
why not?
I feel good about it now.
Plus Hollywood Brown. I love it. So.
Yeah,
All right,
appreciate
man.
you, Chad.
I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks again. If everybody doesn't know, you can follow him on Twitter at BMCDoc10, right? No, that's what's your Twitter? I follow you on Twitter, and I'm not even sure what your Twitter is because I just see you on Twitch all the time.
I am on Twitch all the time, following the boys. No, I did change it. You're right. That was my old one. BM Doc 10 on
There we
Twitter
go. BMDoc10. There we go.
for
See?
all your fiery anti McCole Hardman takes, and then he makes me eat crow. So
There we go. All right. Appreciate everybody taking the time to listen to the AL Central. As always, give me a shout out. And now you can give Brian a shout out too, to let us know how wrong we were in your eyes when you look at the divisions as yourself.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
The Pigskin Tales podcast is all about the lesser-known pro football players. Yes, there are stories about the ones we know, like Brad Tarkenton and Harold Red Grange. But have you ever heard of Ernie Nevers? How about Dave Osborne or even Grady Alderman? These men created their own path to the NFL. How did they do it? Listen to the Pigskin Tales podcast, now streaming on your favorite music platform. Go to pigskintales.com.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcasts. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcasts. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.